Chapter 1. The Myth. People went hysterical about groundbreaking news. Everyone was talking of the foreign planet that our scientists at last had announced its discovery. I, however, was less excited, not figuring out how it might affect us. It would represent a dramatic deviation that could serve in the abandonment plan, as they all believed. Our star was almost collapsing. The most pessimistic reports claimed it would soon fade away and might cease to exist for the coming generation. Others, more optimistic, said it could continue to shine for at least 5 more generations, followed by a deterioration that would take place over another 10 before it finally dimmed out. On the other hand, our world has suffered a lot from the latest cosmic incidents. The most recent of such was a join meteor that had imposed itself, establishing a new trajectory around our planet, becoming its first moon ever. That, along with our dying star's weakening gravitational pull, was drastic to our system. Scientists and astronomers reported that there was a feeble possibility that it might suddenly leave its orbit and collide with any adjacent body, that is, our planet. Such a collision could lead to inexorable outcomes, triggering massive turbulence in the system that could exacerbate, causing our planet to expedite its axial spinning. A horrid one, scientists dreaded it would be. Day and night, for instance, would desist their perennial latent immobility, starting a successive and endless cycle. Something that would alter our way of living and could threaten our survival. But as they had already confirmed, that was a weak possibility. In a desperate search for a backup planet, astronomers had identified over 500 solar systems in our galaxy and were detecting more all the time. Not so long ago, they discovered this planet that closely resembled ours. They kept it unannounced for unbeknownst reasons until they started talking about it only recently, referring to it as the planet we all know about, the planet Earth. We used to think Earth was just a fable we inherited from our forefathers, a myth that said that humans originally were from another world and had inhabited it for ages. But somehow things went wrong and they had to abandon it and come to ours, starting a new life. For generations we kept hearing such stories and more about how our ancestors were irritated when they came and how it took them ages to adapt to our environment and ecological system. That was because of the succession, as they used to call it. What was the succession? None could explain, because no one could apprehend it or have a complete awareness of what it might be. But those who tried and reached a basic understanding needed to be more persuasive, and neither did they introduce a plausible explanation. Thus, society accused them of going mad and sometimes called them the possessed, even though they were in some circles known as the most ingenious experts and thinkers in our world. The records that these possessed people had written, and I was interested in reading, spoke of that succession and explained a theory that stated, our definition of time and place differed from that of our ancestors who inhabited Earth. According to their assumptions and because of this succession, people on Earth sometimes experienced both day and night in a single location, and they were able to spend Earthling months or even years in one region, suffering no traumas of long exposures to daylight or darkness. Once these claims and theories were published, the government indicted them of heresy threatening social security. They shot some dead in front of the media, imprisoned some in day or night prisons from which they could never leave, and put some in a sanitarium. Elo, an old-time friend of mine, was recruited by one of the few agencies collaborating with the government on a very reticent project called Project Earth, co-terrestrials. It was colloquially known as X-PECT. Its purpose was first to confirm that the so-called planet Earth existed and was habitable, then to study and explore it, to colonize it. He was one of many astronauts interested in that planet and was confident of its existence even before that recent discovery. It was an assurance based on his studies, readings, and his possession of an unusual and ancient collection of textbooks written in an archaic language used by the terrestrials called English. Elo was renowned for his success in his field and linguistics, things that enabled him to absorb all the information in these old books. A few days earlier, I had no interest in most of the arguments that were happening, not until one day, a week ago, when I met Elo on a routine trip home and exchanged an intriguing conversation. "Did you hear about Earthbot?" he asked me after the customary greeting. "Yes, of course, every space institute and agency is talking about it," I replied, surprised by his sudden and unexpected question. "Not just a planet bot," he exclaimed. "It is the planet. He stressed that word to give it a specific significance and continued. The planet that resembles ours in a very peculiar and unbelievable way. It has the same atmosphere. Its temperature is almost the same as ours, composed of land and water on the surface. And we even have shreds of evidence that there was life on it long ago. A life that we believe could still exist today. He paused, waiting for me to comment. I did not. I knew a lot about space and history from my readings, dwarfing all the ongoing debates and boosting my knowledge of the subject to surpass the beginner's level. Have you ever heard that its inhabitants were already aware of our existence? He stated. I opened my mouth in astonishment, intrigued and attentive. In one of their books, he continued when he sensed he drew my attention, they wrote of us. They referred to our planet Proxima-b and our star Proxima Centauri. They even compared it to theirs as being a much smaller and that it emits less light than their sun. They knew about us and named our planet already, I cogitated. Did you say they had an idea we existed? I asked aloud. He nodded and gestured for me not to raise my voice and avoid attracting notice. So the myth is true, I added quietly, not waiting to hear his reply. You've got to tell me everything now. We can't speak of it this moment, not here, he interrupted. A brief period of silence passed as we stared into space before he finally decided to end it with his deep and grave voice. This place is not safe, he leaned in and whispered. We have to be at another safer location, perhaps. Can we meet somewhere at the beginning of the next week? I have many things to do today and tomorrow, and we need plenty of time to discuss everything. Plenty of time? Everything? What more secrets could there be about this planet?